If you're thinking about retiring to Wilmington, there's something I want you to hear before you book that flight. This metro area added more than 12,000 people in a single year, and retirees are a huge part of that number. On paper, Wilmington looks like the obvious answer, but I've been helping people relocate to this coast for years, and I've watched some of them land here and feel like they've finally come home. And I've watched others realize that it wasn't quite what they pictured. I'm Kimberly Crouch with eXp Realty, and I relocated to this area myself. I live near Wrightsville Beach, and I'm out there almost every day, year-round. So here's what I'm covering today: the lifestyle priorities that genuinely fit this coast, the trade-offs that tend to surface after the first year, and how to figure out, honestly, whether this move lines up with the life you want. Priority number one, an active on-the-water lifestyle. So let me start with one of the priorities I hear most often from people relocating here. Many of the buyers I've worked with who place a high value on being on the water tell me it has become one of their favorite parts of living here. This is the person who spent their whole career saying, someday I'll live near the water. And when they finally get here, they realize this isn't a vacation. This is just a Tuesday. That's not marketing language. That's how I describe my own life. I'm out at Wrightsville Beach almost every single day. And not because I'm recovering from a hard week. That's just what living here looks like. So if your idea of retirement is being on the water and not just near it, active, outdoors, social clubs, Wilmington's coastal corridor is hard to beat. Wrightsville Beach isn't a sleepy beach town. It's an energetic community built around a water-centered lifestyle. Sailing, surfing, stand-up paddle boarding, kayaking, dolphin watching from an outrigger canoe or a boat. Naughty Times is right there on the causeway, and spend the day out on the Intracoastal and the tidal creeks around the island. That's the lifestyle you're actually buying into. And it's not just the beach itself. The Cross City Trail runs from downtown Wilmington all the way out towards Wrightsville Beach. Porter's Neck has communities with golf and marina access. Ogden gives you proximity to all of that with quick access to shopping and medical offices. Each area has its own rhythm, and each area offers a different combination of amenities, home styles, price points, and recreation and access to the water. Which one works best on the priorities that matter most to you? The people I see thrive in this environment tend to have one thing in common. They're not looking to slow down. They're looking to redirect. They want physical activity, perhaps, or social circles, and their time outside to be the center of the week, not the thing they squeeze in at the end of it. If that's the retirement you're picturing, this coast's water access, milder winters, and year-round outdoor culture deliver something very few places on the East Coast can match at this price point. Priority number two, the tax and cost of living mover. If the water is the emotional pull, the numbers are often what close the deal. And for anyone selling a higher value home up north or out west, they're worth running carefully. North Carolina's flat income tax rate is 3.99% for 2026. Now that's already low, and it's scheduled to keep dropping to 3.49% in 2027 and 2.99% in 2028. Those future cuts are tied to the state hitting revenue targets, so treat them as the planned direction rather than a guarantee. Now here's the part a lot of people don't realize until they dig in. North Carolina doesn't tax Social Security income at the state level at all, regardless of how much you earn. There's no inheritance tax and no estate tax, and military retirement pay is exempt as well for retirees who served at least 20 years or were medically retired. Compare that to New Jersey, where the top state income tax rate runs as high as 10.75%, or New York, where it can reach 10.9%. And the cost of living gap is real too. Per salary.com, living in New York costs roughly 64% more than Wilmington, and Boston about 44% more. That's not a rounding error. That's a fundamentally different monthly budget. Now, I really want to be straight about insurance because on the coast, it matters. Homeowners insurance here isn't cheap, and it varies a lot depending on the home and how close it sits to the water. Many coastal buyers are looking at several $1,000s a year, sometimes more, plus food, plus flood insurance if you're in an AE or VE zone, which can add roughly $800 to several thousand per year on top. You'll want a real quote on the specific property, not a rule of thumb. But put it next to Florida, where the statewide homeowners average now runs around $9,000 to $10,000 a year, and the North Carolina picture still looks a lot more manageable. One more honest note, I'm not a licensed financial planner or tax advisor anymore. Your specific situation depends on your income structure, your retirement accounts, and the state you're coming from. So please please run these numbers with your CPA or financial advisor before you make any decisions. This is not financial or tax advice. But directionally, the tax and cost case for coastal North Carolina is one of the strongest on the East Coast. Priority number 3 is healthcare access. For a lot of people I talk to, this is the question that comes up before anything else. Not the beach, not the taxes, healthcare. What happens if something goes wrong? It's a completely fair question, and I'd rather give you the facts than a reassurance. For Wilmington in 2026, the honest answer is that the infrastructure here is improving significantly, and there's a real approved plan behind that. Novant Health has approved a multi-year plan for the Wilmington and coastal region on the order of $1 billion. In concrete terms, that includes a new heart and vascular patient tower at the South 17th Street campus, a major outpatient expansion for cardiac care, a new inpatient rehabilitation hospital that Novant says will nearly double existing capacity, and reconfiguration across the ground and first floors of New Hanover Regional Medical Center. That's not a proposal, it's approved, and Novant has filed for state approval to add 225 inpatient beds tied to that new tower. The scale of demand tells you why they're investing at this level. Novant's Heart and Vascular Institute in the coastal region already sees around 18,000 new patients a year, over 120,000 outpatient clinic visits, and more than 12,500 surgeries and procedures annually. And they expect that demand to keep growing as the region's 65 and older population grows. And if you're looking on the Brunswick County side of the river, there's more. Novant recently received state approval for a new 20-bed hospital in Leland, the first new hospital in Brunswick County since 2011, to serve the northern part of the county. That's a meaningful shift in access for buyers considering the Leland area. And here's how I'd use this information. If you have specific ongoing medical needs, certain oncology subspecialties, a particular research program, specialized care of any kind, map those needs against what's here today and what's coming, ideally with your own physicians. That's the same due diligence I'd do for anyone. For the broad range of care most retirees are thinking about, cardiac rehabilitation, quality primary care, the investment going into this market right now is genuinely substantial. Priority number 4, wanting a real sense of place. There's a 4th priority I hear a lot. People who aren't just looking for near the beach, but for a community with a distinct identity, somewhere that feels like theirs. And what's interesting about this coast is how different the options actually are within a pretty short drive. Landfall is the gated, amenity-rich option. Some have intracoastal access and a full country club setup with golf, tennis, and a private club. It sits at the higher end of the market. In 2025, Landfall recorded 107 home sales with an average sale price above $1.7 million. If that kind of community is what you're building your retirement around, there's not much else quite like it in this market. Carolina Beach is a completely different feel. A real casual beach town with a boardwalk and tiki bar energy, and recent median sale prices in the high 500s. If you want a true beach community vibe without the formality of a gated enclave, it's worth a look. Curry Beach sits just south of Carolina Beach and tends to be quieter and less commercial, with less summer bustle. It's a small market, so per home prices run higher and swing quite a bit month to month, often into the 700s or low 800s. But the appeal is the low-key pace. Leland on the Brunswick County side has grown a lot in the past several years. More new construction, more accessible price points, and quick access to both Wilmington and the Brunswick beaches. For buyers who want proximity to Wilmington's amenities without Wilmington's price tags, it's become a real option. Now, none of these are interchangeable. The identity, the price point, the pace are genuinely different. The buyers I've worked with who seem most satisfied over the long term are the ones who spend time comparing communities and visiting them based on the factors that matter most to them before making a decision. Now, we just covered 4 things people move here for, and the price range is wide, from Wilmington's median home value around $475,000 all the way up to Landfall's average north of $1.7 million. If you're not sure which of these communities fit your budget and the life you're picturing, or you're trying to narrow it down before you book a flight, you could spend weeks reading forum posts and watching videos, or you could grab my free 22-page North Carolina Coastal Relocation Decision Guide. Just click the link below to download it. It walks through each coastal area in the greater Wilmington corridor and along North Carolina's coast, what's available at each price point, what day-to-day life looks like there, and how to figure out which area fits your life before you commit to anything. Priority number 5, coming from a city with very close proximity to stores, restaurants, and amenities. cities. Now let's talk about the trade-offs, the things that catch some people off guard. And I want to be straight with you because you might not hear this from other people. The first one hits people coming from a large city. Brooklyn, Boston's South End, a Philadelphia row house neighborhood, Washington, D.C., places where you step out your door and within 10 minutes you have coffee, groceries, a pharmacy, bars, a restaurant, and a park. Wilmington's citywide average walk score from walkscore.com is 35 out of 100, squarely car dependent. And in a lot of the coastal and ICW adjacent areas relocators are drawn to, it's lower than that. A representative address in the 28409 zip code near the Intracoastal scores around 15, which means almost every errand takes a car. If you spent decades not needing a car for daily life, that's a bigger adjustment than many people expect. It changes your routine and your sense of independence possibly. And for some people, it affects their social life in ways they just didn't see coming. There are pockets where that's not the case. Downtown Wilmington scores in the mid-80s. The Mayfair corridor is one of the spots where dinner and the grocery store are nearby, and you can hop on the Cross City Trail and go towards Wrightsville Beach. That's exactly why I chose that area for my own home. Ex-flood zone, daily errands are close, and we are a bike ride from Wrightsville Beach. But those pockets are the exception in this market, not the standard. I also chose it because it matched my personal priorities. Someone else's priorities might be completely different. So if proximity to stores and restaurants is high on your list, it's not impossible here, but you do have to be intentional about where you land and honest with yourself about what is available and whether a more card-dependent routine is something you'd adapt to easily or something that would wear on you over time. Priority number 6, when being near family and friends is the whole point. This one comes up more than almost any other, and I want to handle it carefully because it's not a knock on Wilmington. It's just honest math about distance, and only you can weigh it. Some people move here for the lifestyle, plain and simple. The beach is the draw, the taxes are the draw, the fall through spring weather is the draw, and they're at peace with their kids or friends being a flight away. Then there's another group where being close to family is genuinely the top priority. If that's you, I just want you to run the travel reality with clear eyes before you commit. Wilmington International Airport, ILM, is a real convenience. About 5 miles from downtown, a 10 to 15 minute drive. It does have nonstop service to some northeast cities and southeast cities, including New York and Philadelphia, but plenty of routes still connect through a hub like Charlotte or Atlanta or Dallas if you're going out west. So depending on exactly where your friends and family are, you may be connecting. For someone flying north several times a year, that travel time and cost adds up. There's also a seasonal wrinkle worth picturing honestly. Friend and family visits tend to cluster in July and August, which is also when the heat and humidity peak. Hurricane season is active, and the beaches are busiest. A house full of grandkids or friends during a tropical storm watch is more complicated to manage than it looks from up north in February. None of this means Wilmington is wrong if family and friends are your priority. I've worked with buyers whose adult children or friends from other areas relocated south around the same time, and it works beautifully. If you already have family in the area or the Carolinas or the Mid-Atlantic, the distance math looks very different. I just want you to make that call with the real logistics in front of you and not the romanticized version. Priority number 7, if heat and hurricane season weigh on you. Start with summer. At the peak, roughly July and August, daily highs climb into the upper 80s and low 90s, and it stays warm from June into September. But the temperature isn't the whole story. It's the humidity. People coming from drier climates consistently say the humidity was the thing they weren't ready for. An afternoon thunderstorm rolls through, gives you about 20 minutes of relief, and then it resets, even muggier. If your picture of retirement is being outside every afternoon, that's a real limitation for a few months of the year. Locals adapt. You shift outdoor time to early morning and plan errands around the heat. But I'd rather you know that going in than discover it your first July. Then there's hurricane season, June 1st through November 30th. Direct hits on Wilmington aren't a weekly event. They're not theoretical either. The Carolinas were flagged among the higher risk areas in AccuWeather's 2026 seasonal outlook. And even storms that don't make landfall can bring flooding, power outages, and several days of disruption. The National Weather Service office right here in Wilmington publishes a dedicated hurricane preparedness guide for coastal residents, and people actually use it. For some people, that honestly adds to the appeal. There's a real sense of community that comes with getting through a big storm season together. And folks who've done it tend to feel deeply connected to their neighbors. If preparedness energizes you rather than stresses you out, you'll probably be fine. But if the idea of tracking storms in August, keeping a week of supplies on hand, and possibly evacuating evacuating chips away at your peace of mind, that's not a small thing. And it's worth being completely honest with yourself about before you sign anything. Here's the genuine upside, and I want to end on it because it's real. Fall and spring on this coast are spectacular. Think 60s and 70s and 80s, comfortable and easy to be outside in. Winters are mild by Northeast standards. They're not tropical. You'll see highs in the 50s and low 60s and some nights near freezing. And we do get rain throughout the year. But taken together, that's a long stretch of really pleasant outdoor weather across most of the calendar. For anyone who can build their life around that and take the summers in stride, the full picture is very good in my opinion. You just deserve to have the full picture, not just the brochure version. We just covered 7 types of relocators. And if you're honest with yourself about which ones sound like you already have a much clearer picture of whether this coast is your next move. But knowing the lifestyle fits is only half the decision. The other half is figuring out which community actually matches your budget, your priorities, and real ownership costs. Flood zones, insurance, HOA structure, all of it. Get that part wrong and you're looking at an expensive move, or worse, moving again 2 years later. That's exactly what I help relocating buyers work through. Call or text me at 910-218-8187 or use the buyer consultation link below to book a call. Tell me your budget, what's most important to you, and any factors that are priorities. I'll help you compare communities based on objective information so you can decide which areas best fit your needs. And one final note, every buyer's priorities are different. My role isn't to tell you where you should live. It's to provide objective information about communities, housing options, costs, and amenities so you can decide which areas best fit your own goals and lifestyle. I'm Kimberly Crouch with eXp Realty, your coastal relocation expert, offering you authentic coastal luxury at every price point.